we have an opportunity here to welcome our special guests to the show. Huge shout out, by the way, to these two for making time to chat with us, obviously, because it's busy right now in the lead up to Copenhagen. So big shout out to Enzo and Coach Minnie for joining us, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate your time.
Hey,
Hello,
it's nice to
guys.
be on.
Listen, I mean, we're looking forward to picking your brains a little bit, especially about what's ahead, but also kind of what's behind you, because I think one of the most compelling storylines about your team, this Fnatic team, and I'll probably aim this question first at Minnie, is that you were already a roster that was really impressing a lot of people. You were getting a lot of value out of your core. But I'm curious to talk about sort of the change, the course correction you made with your roster right after Champions. With Magnum and Doma, stepping aside and this sort of new roster look. I'd love to know like how we sort of came to that decision, maybe what you felt like you were looking to add to the team, and sort of how you managed to achieve that. Because I think
Talk
it's
about the
safe to
list,
say
Minnie. Talk about the list.
it's worked out, hasn't it? So what are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that, Minnie?
so I mean, the Doma changes after Champions, and the Magnum changes a bit later. So
Yeah.
I guess it's like having like a good, like I have a fairly decent understanding of our team's kind of strengths and weaknesses, and like I feel like some other teams maybe they don't quite want to take risks. And like I guess like my philosophy a little bit is that this is a very new game, and if there are opportunities to find players that potentially like franchise level players, like right now in these first couple of years, then we should be like finding those players right now and kind of building towards that time frame, if you know what I mean. Because we don't want to wait around and get to that point and then suddenly looking at CS salaries, looking at CS buyouts. Like we want to find those players that are right for a roster right now. So that's kind of like where I stood on it, and I think that that's kind of like where Fnatic stood on it when they picked us up originally. Like when Colin picked us up, it was pretty much like, right, we picked you up, but like we're probably not 100% sure that this is going to be the full core for the next like 2 years or so. But I think that like me and Bosa's like relationship was a big identity point, and a core strength that they wanted to build around basically. So yeah, so specifically with like Doma and Magnum, it was just like I think Doma culturally just didn't fit us very well, but like him as a player, he's like fantastic and still like owning it in the VRL scene. And I'm sure that Mad Lions are a shoe-in for the franchise league probably. And then with Magnum, there was just like it was more like a team thing rather than him specifically.
Dope.
One sec.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
still
sorry
working.
about that. I think
You're still
we
working,
lost
yeah.
you here in
Can
Discord,
you
but
still hear me? Sorry.
your,
Now we can
your
hear you,
answer went
yeah.
out to VMix. We obviously, unfortunately, didn't get much of it. But
I was just gonna finish lip reading and be like, okay.
I'll let you summarize that bit for us.
Where did I stop?
You were talking about obviously
franchise
trying
players.
to, striking while the iron's hot and trying to avoid obviously like exorbitant buyouts and salaries.
Yeah.
trying to solidify your roster.
So like even like I was then going on to say like even like when Fnatic picked up as originally, like we were one of the only teams that was picked up as like a big core. Like our whole team was picked up by an org, whereas like during that time frame, like orgs were like picking players and building the team. So like Fnatic picked us up, and it was like me and Bosa's kind of relationship that they were kind of building around, I think, to some degree. So like they even told us like we don't expect this roster to last like 2 years, 3 years. Like we expect to kind of be changing things around a little bit. So I think there was like a very compatible relationship between Fnatic and kind of my understanding of an early esports title.
Yeah.
And then specifically with the players, like Doma, for instance, like I think culturally just didn't fit very well with our team, but like he's a great player. Like in the VRL scene, he's like absolutely destroying it with Mad Lions right now, and they're like a shoe-in to franchise next year, so he's doing quite well still. And then with Magnum, it was more like an overall team thing, I'd say. Like Magnum's still a great player; he's like VCT caliber for sure, but like the kind of balance on the team was a little bit off, I think. And like I said, like we needed a bit more firepower, and someone like Alpha just came in and kind of you can see like how good he is, you know.
Yeah. I kind of want to direct this the other way because I feel like everybody's asked Minnie what the new player, what he thinks of his new players or the people he's picked up. Now, obviously, Enzo, your previous coach was a man who was meant to be here today, but decided to skive off. So I want to know the comparisons of what it was like working under someone like Mitch, man, and now working under a good coach like Minnie.
Unlucky for Mitch, man.
He skived off, is what he gets.
That was a bomb. Oh my god, sorry, Mitch. Right. So I had So far on Valorant, I would say 3 coaches. I had Mitchman, Dismo, and Mini, and all three of them have a different way to work and a different, a different coaching style, I would say. Like for example, Desmo was more oriented towards the mechanics of the game, like the individual mechanics, like how to move together precisely, how to take space and stuff. Whereas Mini is much more focused on the macro and like the strategic aspect of what's gonna happen during that map. You know, is Mini is not going to focus on what a player should do mechanically because he's focusing on something else. He's like he has the broader picture in mind. And Mitchman, sorry. Yeah, I mean, Mitchman was an analyst with us, so it was again something
Okay.
different, Uh, and like you have like a lot of different styles for every coach. I don't think a style is better than another. I just think that it depends on what your team needs. Sometimes your team is gonna need someone who has a lot of advice to give you mechanically for every player, so that the micro is much better, And sometimes you need a coach who's going to focus only on the tactical aspect of things. And yeah, that's basically it. Like everyone is very different. It only depends on what your team needs to improve and move on.
Actually, based on that, then, if you have, you've gone through 3 coaches so far, and everybody coaches differently or has a different view towards the game, what are the best out of every single one that you still keep with you today as you're playing with Fnatic right now that you think could improve your style and improve the team style?
Well, from the point of view of the Fnatic roster, we need Coach Mini right now. We need the guy who is going to focus on the tactical
I just
aspect.
said that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like that's what we need in the team because the job he's doing right now is so productive for all of us, and it fits the balance of the team. Our team is super balanced. We have everything we need to function properly, So yeah, my answer is Coach Mini, of course.
Unlucky Mitch.
I mean, I think this ties in really nicely then if we go the other way again. Let's talk, Mini, let's talk a little bit about Enzo and Alpha. And, you kind of touched a little bit on the firepower aspect that Alpha brings in here, but I'm curious to think sort of, how the team as a whole maybe sort of feels different now with these players. Obviously, there's a format and there's a structure you want to integrate them into, but they bring their own individual flares, things that you also want to leverage, to make the team even better. So curious to know from your perspective, like, between the two of them, what new elements are we seeing being added to your arsenal here with this new Fnatic look?
I mean, for a very long time, we've tried to find, like, even back when we made the roster changes for Dirk and Magnum, like our ideal situation was to find someone with lots of firepower and find someone who was like a secondary IGL, someone with a bit more experience. And like back then, that was just impossible to find, and it's like really, really hard to find. Like it's almost like how finding an IGL was hard, like finding like a secondary IGL or like someone with a bit more leadership capabilities is really hard too. But I think Enzo is basically that player, and I think Alpha Year is also that player with the firepower that we were looking for like a year ago. So yeah, that's what they bring. So Alpha Year is just straight up just a mechanical monster, and then Enzo comes in as a more kind of experienced player with a bit more kind of leadership skills. But I also do think that Enzo is like severely underrated in terms of firepower. Like when we picked him up, like people were like kind of underrating him, I think, and I'm glad that in officials he showed that like he's not just some like boomer old man who's just like there to like support the boys. Like he's actually got chops of his own,
Yeah.
I think the main thing I really want to add to this, though, because I asked you this, I think after week 1, I would like, did you expect Alpha to be this good? Because he's now done it week to week consistently, different agents, shown depth in pool. He's only just turned 17 and seemingly he's just helped you guys almost speed run EMEA from start to finish. Like, did you actually think when you picked him up off your little list, you went, oh, like this guy looks quite good, that he's going to come in and do that?
Not really. I mean, originally we picked him up as a chamber player too, so it was like, I guess my expectations shifted a little bit when we just, because like basically we asked Durka if he wanted to play Raze or chamber once we picked him up. And Alpha was just like, I don't really care, just let Durka do whatever. So yeah, Durka gets to do what he wants basically. So and then yeah, so I don't know how I expected him to play on Rays. I presumed he would be a bit more inconsistent on the Rays because he didn't play as much. But no, it's a bit surprising that he like slammed almost every single game. I think like in the final, like he started off on split a little bit slow, and I was like, okay, this is his game where he's going to be a bit slow. And then I pressed tab on the half, and he had like 25 kills. I can't like he's not going
The
to.
last game was the one where you thought he might start a bit slow.
Yeah.
Like all the other games, you're like, nah, he got it, he's fine.
Actually, I might sidetrack a bit, but to stay on topic with Altair, because I saw that maybe even yesterday or before yesterday, he tweeted out that there was going to be, or he had some issues to like try to get his visa on time to go to Denmark, because apparently where he was trying to go to get his visa, the place burned down. So do you have any updates of what's going on with Altair and the status and how Fnatic's going to look? Are you going to have your 5 going in, or is it going to be like, ah, shit, we're going to have somebody in the hotel room chilling out again?
No, like we're pretty confident that he's going to be there. Like pretty confident. There was a bit of a scare like a week or so ago.
Yeah.
Where like if we didn't make first seed, like me and Colin were a bit worried. So like we didn't tell the boys anything, but like secretly I was like really hoping we get first seed, so there's a bit more time. But no, it should be fine. Like
awesome.
It's crazy that he turned up and the place is just like burned down or something though.
That is actually fucking mental.
Like yeah, like why us? Like again, like it was just like crazy because we've had like a rough year for that kind of stuff.
Who's sabotaging you?
Course,
So who's doing it? That's the thing.
Back in 2012, it was about DDoSing online matches in Counter-Strike. Now it's just like RL
just saying.
with COVID, like or like burning down buildings just to like sabotage Fnatic. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, so what's it been like for you, Mini JK? Because you were talking about you and Boaster when you guys were Summon FC. You were looking for an organization to approach you, and then you had conversations with Fnatic. What basically sold you the vision of Fnatic that's going to be this is the org that we want to build our career and build our ideal Valorant roster with?
I mean, I always tell this story when I'm around asked that like me and Jake were like we didn't know what we were doing back then really, so we like talked to like an agent just to see if there was like anything they could shed light on, and
yeah.
We ended up not like signing with anyone, but like they were like, oh, who would you want to join? And like we both said Fnatic. And like the agent just like laughed at us, and we're just like, wait, what? And they're like, you're just never gonna do that. You're not good enough. Or like they were like, you're not big enough. And like now, Boast is like one of the biggest faces in Valorant, and we're like one of the best teams in the world. So yeah. So that was just like weird. But yeah, I think it's just like my understanding. Like I'm a Counter-Strike guy. Like like Fnatic to me represents quite a lot of like good things in Counter-Strike. And then like Boast is like was Counter-Strike, but also was into League, and like he liked like the League of Legends team. So I think there was just like a brand affinity to some degree. And then like I also just know that like behind the scenes Karen did quite a lot of work, and like having like an older guy like him running things on the pro gaming side of things like is a pretty good person to have. So it felt like a pretty safe option. As well, they're based in London, which is where me and Boaster live, so it just made a lot of sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And me.
I was and Tom, I guess whatever. Pump your tires. Big shout out, by the way, to Magnum in the chat. Magnum just hopped in and said he's the one that visited Ishmir and made revenge and burned down the building. but Magnum's been doing very, very well with Koi, so really happy that players are still able to bounce back and do very well here after moving onwards with Fnatic. So big shout out, Magnum.
Obviously, like, I think it's really interesting, Minnie, how you talk about your agent kind of scoffing at the idea of you joining such a sort of quote unquote big brand, right? Because there's such a huge reputation with Fnatic, and that's there for a reason. Obviously, it's a really grueling campaign, getting through like a VCT, getting through group stages, getting through playoffs, securing that seed. I'm curious to know about like what what support staff you guys have available to, on this roster, like what you guys have to draw upon, because we constantly hear from so many pro players and teams, just, it's tough. You've got to adapt so quickly. You really need like strong analyst core. You need a lot of feedback loop, support staff in general. Like tell us what Fnatic offers you guys in the way of that.
So Fnatic has its own little marketed thing called like the HPU, which is like a high performance unit, they call it. And it's more like focused on like our performance. So like I'm the coach for all the in-game stuff. And then we have a performance coach called Marcus who deals with everything like outside the server basically. So he's like always in like he joins us every single day, watches our scrims, like kind of monitors the mood levels and all that kind of stuff, and just like he's just like a good leadership relationship figure to have around to make sure the like as like a third party kind of outside perspective, he's able to kind of keep relationship with the boys and like make sure they're kind of sleeping well and just like eating well and they're just like in a good spot.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, like talking about Marcus is probably better to ask Enzo about a little bit because obviously, like Enzo deals with him more one on one than I would. Like behind the scenes, obviously, I talk with Marcus quite a lot, but I don't experience his impact as much as the players would, you know. So I would say that Marcus is really big for our team. I don't know if there's many other teams that kind of focus on that side of the game as much. Like, so I think it's a pretty good thing to have. And then like it's just me on the strategy side of things. So like we had Anders before for a little bit, but it just didn't really work out. Like it, you know, I think Anders is a really great guy. I think he's really, really smart, and I think he fits more the head coach role, I would say, is kind of what I would say.
Yeah.
Nice.
So basically at the start of the year, me and Jake, it was basically like, well, we could find another analyst or we could find like a strategic coach. And I was like, let's wait. And like me and you have to like rebuild our own system. And then we'll see what we need like towards the end of the year. And then we'll kind of find someone who will come into that system once we kind of build it out again.
Yeah.
So like it's been a bit of an exploration for me and both to kind of rekindle our little like strategy relationship again. So yeah, so it's been working well, but I think that me and Jake, it's a big strain on both of us because like, you know, other teams have got like 2 or 3 people like doing stuff, and it's just me and him just doing everything right now. Really, like the boys do their own stuff, but in terms of just strategy, it's like me and Jake like 99%. You know, so so yeah, so we'll be looking for someone for next year probably. But yeah, the performance side, like Marcus is like a really big part of the team that like doesn't get talked about very much, but is definitely there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to follow up on that with Viroth a little bit because it's like, I feel like you've now been through a bit of NIP, Alliance, obviously a huge org, fear. But the thing I kind of want to ask you is, are there any major differences while coming into Fnatic or things that the other teams have done as well that like helped you move forward as a player? Because you have had quite a growth, especially over the last like year or so.
There was different assets that helped us a lot in the team, especially at Alliance. Like I grew a lot as a player at Alliance because when you have someone like Loda next to you every time you bootcamp, you know Loda, the Dota player.
Yeah.
That guy has a lot of great advice to give you, and to be honest, I had a lot of one-on-ones with him just for myself to improve as a team player, you know. And these were extremely productive for me. But yeah, that's the thing. You also have like people like Marcus, but both at NIP and Alliance. These were people that I would say like I would talk to them once a week, you know. And now, like having right now at Fnatic a performance coach that is working with you every single day. Like he knows what's going on. He knows everything. He's there, you know. He's listening to us every single day.
Watching you.
Yeah, he can see the like the good things. He can see the bad things. He can make us talk with each other. He can, or at least help it, you know, because we can do it by ourselves. But he can help things out. And he's giving us advice whenever we need something. Like he's here daily with us, and that's a big difference maker. Like that is a huge difference maker. That's what I can say from like for Marcus at least. Like since I work with him, I have improved on a lot of daily things that help you actually win games in the end.
Nice. And to continue along with the supporting staff, and I want to try to dig deeper into like the definition of mini Jake. What do you think about the analyst role is, right? For example, you brought in Anders before for champions. We saw some great stuff cooked up for Fracture, for example, when you guys premiered the Astra and the Rays. But then, if you're telling me that Anders has more of a role to be a head coach, what is exactly the definition of an analyst, and what do you look for exactly within the analyst itself? Because for me, I look at people that are trying to do analysts sometimes, and they just go and run it back. They download the fucking profile of the 10 seconds plant when people are coming in, and they're giving this to people.
This is Van Silly.
I want to be an
analyst.
analyst.
Is Van Silly. He's talking about himself.
I don't want to be an analyst. I watch enough VODs as it is. I don't want to watch more, so I do not want to be an analyst. But what do you look for here, Mini Jake?
So basically, my answer would have changed like 20 times in the past year, so it's like really difficult to like really give you a great one. But I think that I guess what I mean by head coach is like I think Andrew's got a strong vision about the game,
Yep.
and I think that he should be the one kind of leading that vision. And I think our team, it's more about kind of me supporting Boaster's vision more,
Okay.
I guess. I also do make sure to tell him an idiot when he's being an idiot, but like generally speaking, like it's a lot of coming from him. Because he's just so creative, and like I just need like he's the most creative probably brain in Valorant right now. So I just need to make sure that it's just as long as he's not going off too far, like I just need
Yoru
to keep him on track.
Icebox?
What's that? Icebox. Well,
Yoru
guess
Icebox,
that's
maybe? You
more-
know?
no. Okay, so like it's like I don't know how to. He's creative within the bounds which I let him be creative. You know?
You have.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, he has a bit of a leash, so
Nice.
I mean,
Ah,
in the
you wear
back in the day, he
trousers.
didn't have so much of a leash, but like now I'm like, I think like after we failed for the qualifier for Berlin last year, I kind of like stepped up a bit more and was like, look, like I think I got more to input here, and I want to kind of input more. So that's when I stepped up a bit more into kind of saying no a bit more and kind of working closer with him, I guess. But yeah, I think for the question about like staff, like I think is a pretty vague thing. I don't think there's going to be like great answers to this, but I would say generally the analyst is probably going to look more at data. An assistant coach is probably going to look more macro and work with players more, and I think the head coach is the one that's kind of more just like the vision, I
You're a
guess, and
conduit for a
philosophy.
lot of that. Yeah. You need to
Yeah.
pass the raw data to a degree, right? And see if it sort of matches up with that sort of vision or
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think like when we picked up Anders, it was like I knew that Anders had like stats that he could bring that like me and Bosa never really worked with stats before, and like Anders' stats are just like the best in the game essentially. So like it was very interesting to work with him and see like how he used them and how we could like benefit from them. And like, you know, I think we mostly agreed with things, me and him. I think that there was like some things were like, you know, he's probably a bit more stats oriented than I would be in certain things, but generally speaking, like we had a good relationship on
I mean,
that front. And
the guy comes from private equity, you know, and
Yeah,
he's just
yeah.
like, I sat and had dinner with him and had him sort of talk through his mindset to me. And it's like, I mean, the guy creates algorithms to try and pass out like a lot of, you know, and a lot of data and understanding of the game. And I think, you know, it gives him such a strong idea of what he wants to see. And when that idea comes up against maybe, you know, so you have an idea that's heavily backed by stats, another idea that's heavily backed by intuition or creativity. It's like it can maybe be hard to sort of bridge that gap a little bit.
Mhm.
But I kind of liked how you brought up sort of Boaster's role here, and I want to talk to Enzo about this because obviously, Enzo, you come into the Fnatic roster in pretty short notice for Masters 1, and there's obviously a structure there to sort of adapt to, and obviously, you know, as Minnie's talked about, like, you know, facilitating Boaster's vision and sort of, you know, having everybody integrate. How was that, you know, coming into the team? Because I don't think there are too many teams that are led so strongly from that IGL position. I think some teams are more like the more emphasis on the coach to dispense that vision. So how was that for you coming in and sort of, you know, was it easy to get on board with Boaster's idea? Did you have to look at things from a different perspective? How did that transition go for you?
Yeah, it was very easy. Like I had Iceland with them, so I had time to get to know them all. Like and
Mhm.
yeah, to be honest, Boaster's idea are not complicated ideas. You know, they're efficient ideas. Like he has so many very creative ideas. Like and he's working so much, and it's not something to like I don't know how to say, but they're very efficient and simple ideas, and then you apply them. He has a lot of content, a lot of like he knows the lineups for everyone, for example. That's the thing, you know. And my role in the team was given to me by Mini and Boaster together. I also asked them a lot of questions about what they need and what they precisely want from me. And right now, I'm doing a lot of different things in the team, um, like one of the things I do is basically make things easy for Boaster, make things easier. So in game, sometimes a little bit outside of the game, but mostly in game about some specific informations about some specific weaknesses in the enemy team, like so that he can make the actual right call on the fly. Sometimes I'm also the one leading the attack trio because some micro movements, some micro decisions that he cannot make from his position, someone has to make them. And
Mhm.
I can, as the initiator, make those decisions for the team, you know? And I have the skills to do it. Like that's completely fine. One of the things I do in the team is also just refresh all the basic things, all the basic principles, all the fundamentals that a team needs to win a game. Sometimes things that are very, very basic, but just refreshing them with an open mind and just, working on these things and making sure everybody follows these things.
Mhm.
Eventually, you end up with a team that is more disciplined and plays situations in a better way. So
Mhm.
that's what I do with the team. Again, another thing that I would do in the team kind of every day is just work on the awareness of everyone in the team, like the in-game awareness, like the comms, some small details here and there, on all these small points. When you add them up, in the end, you just improve. That's what I do. So I would say you cannot summarize my role in one sentence,
Uh-huh.
but I do a lot of small things in the team, and that's my role. That's
Mhm.
a second IGL role, I would say. Like I don't have a huge tactical influence on what's going on, but I do give feedback, I do give advice, and sometimes I challenge things and be like, okay, is that really the good thing to do when that and that and that happens on the round? That's
Mhm.
pretty much it.
Awesome. I actually wanted to take that part of what you were talking about, like almost being second IGL, almost talk about the attacker side sometimes and leading the team. And it's a question to both you, Enzo, and Mini Jake. Starting with this is what is actually like the flow, how it goes into communication within a match itself. Because, for example, I play with the Plat Chat boys, and we're playing an online league, and every time we win a round or we lose a round, all five of us fucking start talking to be like, this was good, this was bad, we should do this, we should do that. Then there's fucking 5 seconds left, and then Sideshow has no time to fucking call his strat. So whoever's not IGLing or not being IGL, the other three just have to be quiet and listen to the game and listen to the strats the whole time. And then when do you actually take these notes down and chime in to be like, okay, we need a timeout, and it's my turn to talk as a coach, so that everything flows back into pieces to be able to win a match. So I know it's a. I'll start off with you, Enzo, to try to answer that out, and then get on to Mini Jake.
Our comms, or I would say any pro teams comms, are very different, like
Mm-hmm.
depending on the team first. But I would say on Valorant, there is so many things to take into account that it's rarely just the IGL micromanaging everything. This is not
Mm-hmm.
really possible right now. So to talk about the comms, I would say like freeze time. Sometimes on defense, you're gonna have the sentinel guy talking about where he wants to play, for example, and then you're gonna have like a setup that is called by the IGL, and then everybody can talk about what he's going to do precisely, like during the round, like
Mm-hmm.
like as an anti-rush, like what setup you're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
On attack, it's again very different because like you have so many things to talk about during the freeze time, and then mid round. Like mid round, it's not only the IGL talking. Like everybody can say something about how he wants to take that position, like peek when I shoot or flash for me, stuff like this. Like so many things happen. And what I believe in, at least on Valorant, is that
Mm-hmm.
if everybody can give a little bit of information, some critical information about what's going on his side of the map, this information can lead to a very good call from the IGL. So it's like a round is a dynamic conversation between all the players that have the most information so that the IGL can make a proper decision. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you know what? Sometimes a guy on the edge of the map can actually lead the team. Like that guy has a timing, he's taking that timing, he can tell all the team, okay, come back to me now. I actually have sight. I'm gonna get a kill here. Come back, come back to
Mm-hmm.
C or something. And yeah, that's comms are a complicated things, but it's definitely a skill to work on within a team.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, I think Vansily, what you were saying about like kind of like freeze time management is like something that I think Anders helped us quite a bit with when he was around, and I think we've slipped a
Nice.
little bit, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
He like it was like a priority list of like, you want to look at the alts first, then the economy, kind of thing, or
Mhm.
the economy first, then the alts. And so like if you go through that checklist as the IGL, then it like kind of simplifies the call, because obviously you don't have to think about the default patterns
Mm.
if essentially they're on eco, or you know what I mean? Like
I see.
you
I
don't have
see.
to think about the default patterns as much if there's like 3 big alts on your side, or there's 3 big alts on their side. Like those things kind of dictate the calls more than a default pattern would. And then
Mm.
like after that, then you start thinking about your default patterns and their default patterns and trying to like do the kind of 4D chess, angel versus boaster kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, but in the freeze time, like I think with this roster right now, I think it's good that like I think Dirk has always been someone who's been quite good and vocal about like, I think I got to read, like definitely just do this, let me do this kind of thing. I think Enzo is another player now who's a bit more vocal about like, oh, it feels weaker over here, like maybe we'll do this kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think like the more we kind of emphasize on that in the team and let all the players make those reads, like, and get them to the point where they understand all these little things, and it would just make Jake's job a lot easier. Like,
Mm.
if everyone could do it, I think that's why Optic are probably a very good team, because I think that they've got a bit more tactical FPS experience than our team does, and I
Mm.
think that like they have 5 players who probably are always inputting to FNS to be like, okay, B main, they're not doing anything this week. We can just walk in, explode, kind of thing. And I
Mm.
think that that's something that our team will be working on more.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you, Minnie, is that obviously we know that you're going into that sort of top half. You got a little bit longer to prep, ready for the event. What is the road looking like from here out? Like, is there a boot camp? Are you bringing in certain people ready for certain points, or is it just we're just gonna like relax a little bit and then get ready in a week or so?
So I mean, we just had to take a break, to be quite honest, like this week. So this week we're taking a break, and it's like the first break I've had like for I
And you're
don't
on
know,
this show.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is my break, Tom. Like, yeah,
That was like Enzo last week.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, we just need to take a bit of a break, a breather, and then we're gonna go to Copenhagen, I think next Monday or Tuesday.
Mhm.
And then start a little boot camp there, and then go into the kind of Riot boot camp, because obviously we boot camp a little bit at the event
Mm.
before the event. Like all the teams have to go before,
Mhm.
so we'll be boot camping just before, and then extending that on into the kind of hotel room, kind of LAN room stuff. So yeah, so that's our plan in terms of like I've been thinking about getting some help maybe, but I'm not sure we need it. So
Oh.
Okay.
so,
So, just a quick follow up.
that's not like a
this is
cocky
something
thing. It's more like
I know.
this-
You're allowed
Like-
to be cocky, Mini Jake.
I mean, it
You're allowed
takes
to be
work
cocky.
to
You're
integrate
number
new
one in
pieces
EMEA
into
right
your
now.
structure anyway. It's actually is at the start. It takes more effort to bring people in that
Yeah,
eventually would
yeah.
help.
Mm.
Mhm.
That's kind of like what I'm thinking. I think like the way me and Jake anti-strat teams is like done in a way that doesn't really need someone else's support as much.
Mhm.
And I was thinking maybe we get someone to help. Maybe if there's like that pro map coming in, like maybe someone to kind of feed us some theory whilst we're kind of busy.
Mm.
Like maybe that's the vibe. I'm not sure though. Like something I'm thinking about a little bit. Like maybe we'll have someone help us for some prep or something. But yeah, right now there's not like a big plan. So
Yep.
yeah, just a
So
boot camp.
the follow up I had was you've kind of obviously you're skipping at this point into that latter stages. A lot of teams have sort of talked about whether or not that's actually an advantage based off being able to play some of the earlier games. Obviously for last time and now this time for Alfie's sort of visa situation is probably quite helpful. But for you as a team, do you think that will actually be an advantage getting to watch everyone else, or would you have rather sort of almost played yourself good, I guess?
I don't think it matters that much. I just think it's a safety net that like you've got further into the tournament. And usually like I wouldn't take that mindset. But I think with the champions points being quite tight in the EMEA right now, I think it gives us an extra safety net that like in case Guild or FPX drop a bit early, it might just secure us champs straight off the bat. But yeah, I don't know really. Like I don't think our team was like traditionally the team that did really well at LAN. Until we had to have like 2 subs last time, so
Until Enzo, obviously.
yeah,
God.
until Enzo
Oh.
came along, ruined. No, yeah, so I don't really know my perspective, and I don't think it matters that much. I would prefer just to be in the open bracket already, just
Yeah.
chill,
Mhm.
get a bit of a breather. Yeah, I think that's what most people would prefer, to be honest. Yeah.
I'm curious to see like what your thoughts are on heading into like a I would say it's a quasi live event, right? We have a crowd there, and it's going to be 2,000 people, still enough to make a bit of a racket here. Have you guys talked about that? Like how different it's going to be? Have you sort of shared your expectations amongst the team? Do you have any in terms of like how you need to account for that when the time comes to get out on the stage?
No, we've literally had like one debriefing just after our FPX game, and that wasn't all part of that briefing. So like, I think it's something we'll talk about when we're back together a little bit, maybe on the weekend. I think it's something that Marcus will probably have quite a lot of input onto. I think there was a meme yesterday that someone at the office was like, because we got a few Fnatic people coming up to Denmark for the boot camp, that they were going to stand behind us and like pretend to cheer and stuff. And I was like, that's not good. Just don't do that, please. So yeah, so it's being thought about a little bit, but yeah, I think the bracket, those two questions you just made, like the bracket thing, maybe it will have an impact just because the crowd, like maybe the crowd will have some kind of impact and getting used to that crowd. Maybe it's something, but I'm not.
But that's only in the late playoffs anyway.
Oh,
so
okay.
Wouldn't have made a difference.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
true.
they're still gonna be there. It's
Just outside. Let me in.
I mean, I quickly, just to quickly follow up on that real quick. What's the coaching setup gonna be like? Do you know how much, like how tied in you're gonna be, like what the comms are like, how often you can talk? Because this has been like discussed tons, right?
In the basement again.
Yo, Mini, how much are you gonna have to run if we win or lose? Yeah.
I was like so depressing when we lost the game because I like my shoes being off. So like have my shoes off and like we just lost. And like the person was like, you gotta come now, and we just lost. And I'm just like looking at her, just like, just leave me alone, please.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about the coaching setup whatsoever.
Okay.
Like I'm presuming based off of feedback last time that like they're gonna do their best to like make it a bit better. But I think they were kind of screwed at the last event because they didn't have the spaces available that they should have had. They had to do some makeshifting. So it's just a bit unfortunate, really. I think they understand that the thing is important. It was just a practical thing.
Until that meme from Kaplan, as we just see right now, as he's running towards his team after seeing XQQ just running a whole lap to get to his team as well with these victories.
He did it in a suit as well.
Exactly.
Man was well dressed.
It was warm. It was warm, it seems. But yeah. What's
it
like
after beating us?
Yeah. Unlucky.
You can see me in the background just being depressed.
We don't want to mention that. Let's not find that clip, Daniel. But Enzo, what's it like for you to actually be able to play in front of a crowd? Are you feeling nervous? How do you like calm the situation down? How do you prep yourself for that as well to be able to play in front of a crowd?
Just take the picture of Mitch and use it to calm your nerves, or
pretty much.
Right here. Yeah, it's obviously for me that's a dream. Like also making champions is a dream and playing in front of a huge crowd. But this is not really something that changes like the way you perceive the game. It's like I will just focus up and get myself into my zone like I always do and play, and that's pretty much it. And enjoy it more because there's a crowd. That's pretty much it.
So it pumps you even more.
Yeah, we will have a talk with all the team, obviously, because that was the initial question. Like, how do we deal with it, especially when you have a young guy like Alpha here, Like, remember, he's 17. He was 16 a few days ago, So, yeah, that's new for him, obviously. But we will have a talk with him. We will help him because we have, in the past, already experienced that kind of, event with a crowd, like some of us in the team. So, that's something that we are going to share with him, and it will be easy. Alpha here is adapting to everything super fast, so it will be easy.
Yeah. I kind of want to go in. You talk about being in the zone. I want to go into your zone for a second here, Enzo. Nothing sus. Just want to know a little bit about a round you played out here.
We're going into the end zone. Get it?
Yeah, end zone. That's pretty good, actually.
No.
I'm actually. You know what? I'll give it to you. Usually good jokes are dog shit. That one. Obviously, FPX. It's like you had this insane clutch round, sort of in round 11 here. I think it was. Obviously. It's in like a 1v5 for you. Can you talk us through this?
Yeah, my team dies pretty fast. I am obviously the one behind initially, like initiating that area take, so I am far away. Then I have to cross the smoke. I kill 2 after they die. and I instantly felt the trust of my team. You know, nobody was like giving bad info or complaining or anything. It was just
Mhm.
like proper information telling me what's going on, and I was just focused on my crosshair and killed them. And then after I see no one shot, I decide that okay, maybe there's actually someone behind me right now. So I just turn around and kill that killjoy. Then I know Omen is on A site. I can go plant, and I decide to plant very open for garage, Silong, and lower, like city
Mm.
spawn. So right now he has no clue, absolutely no clue about where I am. And then I'm like, okay, I could just peek and try to kill him, but it's an Omen. He's gonna smoke. I'm gonna try to peek before he smokes. But then once he smokes and taps the spike, I'm like, okay, I have utility. I'm a Sova, you know. So I'm gonna use
So
everything
full
I
kit.
have and make sure you know,
Oh,
I don't do any flashy plays really. I just play to win
Mhm.
it, you know. I have
Yeah.
utility. If here I don't tag him with a drone, I would have actually used my ult at this point because
I was gonna
this
say
round,
it's last
yeah,
round.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course, this round matters so much that it was worth it to use the ult if I don't tag him with the drone. And yeah, and eventually I won it. And then the next round I clutch it again, and it's wow. I think we got some momentum out of these two clutches for the rest
Nice.
of the game.
That's awesome.
yeah.
Anyway, you talked about the momentum and giving also like respect to your opponents, even though they're like on a lower buy, you're out on a 1v1, you want to spend everything. And I want to go back as well to Mini Jake. You were talking about even giving praise to Optic and to having like 5 guys that have tactical
Oh.
FPS experience. Yeah, that was a nice shot. With tactical FPS experience with Counter-Strike, I want to know then if you think that this is like the base fundamentals potentially of being a very good team from the get-go, going into Masters 2, who's going to be your strongest opponent going into, or the one you're going to look out for the most, or do you think that's going to give you the most trouble
Well,
now?
have you even had time to prep? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You've,
even
obviously
that.
this is
They've
your
already
break,
played
you
all
know?
their toughest opponents. They did that last week.
Um, I mean, I'm not sure who the toughest would be. I guess Optic are still like the favorite.
Didn't even win an A.
So I think that like Optic are obviously, and then like I guess the narrative from the last event was that the quote unquote minor regions are no longer minor regions. So I guess there's gonna be like stuff around the world that like I've not been tuned into as much because obviously we've
Yeah.
been busy playing. And no, like in terms of like prep, like we finished the FPX game and we did an hour of debrief, and I've not touched anything to do with
Yeah.
Valorant. Like, so no, I've not looked at anything. Like, I don't think right now we would prep anyway. To be honest, like, I'll start maybe having a look around because I don't even really know who's actually qualified. To be honest, I've not.
Yeah,
I know
that's fine.
Loud qualified. I know Optic and Xset did.
Paper
like,
X.
So how much less leap are you gonna have compared to everybody else in the team having to prep for all of these teams? Like, at what point is it gonna be? I don't have time to try to anti-strat all these teams anymore and try to just build.
Are we not already there?
Yeah.
I think
I don't know.
Are you guys thinking that I wouldn't? I'm not gonna prep for every team. Like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
prep when we kind of know.
Who will
maybe
you
we might
not
be
prep
playing.
for?
What does that mean?
That is, there's no way.
Who do you
do not answer
disrespect
that
enough
question.
not to prep?
I am your attorney, Jake. You don't have to answer that question.
I've never. I think the last time I didn't prep for a team was so long ago because like the level of competition we've had to play in is just like too high, you know. So I can't remember
Yeah.
the last time I've not prepped. Like our Discord channel is a joke. You just scroll down, and it's just infinite anti-strats. It's just like so many. So no, I like the way we anti-strat isn't to like we won't be looking at stuff too much now. Like I'll have a gist of like, oops, sorry, like the map vetoes that like might like what are the important maps at this event? Like, is there like generally speaking, are like all the regions good at like bind, for instance? And does that mean we need to kind of like make sure our bind is looking better? Like, can we float breeze because there's less teams playing breeze? Like, that's the kind of general kind of wide picture prep I might start doing. But in terms of like looking specifically at teams, like I'm not going to look too much right now. Like
Playing the
I might for
vetoes.
some fun, but yeah, more just the general, you know. Until we
go,
really know
Vinny.
who's going to come out of that bracket. And I don't think we'll even know until like a day before or so, or maybe like a few days before we actually play that game.
That's
you know,
right.
so.
You won't. I mean, that's you kind of can watch everybody, but like prepping for a specific team until like the day before just doesn't. It's like a waste of energy, right? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. Sure. Well, look, guys, thanks so much for coming on the show. I think we had a great chance to kind of get an idea of like what the vibes are, and I think like everyone's always curious about how, like, on short notice, new players in the roster get integrated, and especially because you guys turn your results around. Well, not turn it around. You just continued your trend of great results so quickly. I think that's what's made, you know, Fnatic and sort of the structure of your team so interesting. So thanks so much, both of you, for taking the time to talk to us, and best of luck in Copenhagen, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank you
I
guys.
mean,
Thank you guys.
yeah.
See you
Been a
soon.
great
Thank you.
time.